Hey, how's it going, guys? Let me just start by saying the sound quality of this video is going to be subpar at best. I'm currently on the road. I don't really have time to record whilst not being on the road, and I did want to get a sort of video out while I had the chance, just given the situation I'm having right now. So, for those of you who don't know, if you for some reason are watching this video and don't know who I am, I'm the creator of Pokemon Pulsar. We also do other types of videos on this channel, like just gaming related stuff. But anyway, for those of you who've been wondering what's going on with Phase 3, I've been taking a break because I've been burnt out. So when Phase 1 came out, I was already well into Phase 2. So that's why it seemed like Phase 2 came out so quickly. I was already more than 50% done what was going on in Phase 2 before I even released what at the time I called Pokemon Joshine version. That being Phase 1 with the first gym and whatnot. Then when Phase 2 came out, I started working on Phase 3, and I've gotten a decent amount done. But what was happening was I was getting tired. I was working on it like 6 hours a day after work. And then on my days off, I was pretty much just soldiering through the entire day, just ROM hacking. And ROM hacking is one of those things that's, it takes a lot of time. Like it's not as simple as just coding your own game. Every time you want to do something, you have to use a separate program, or you have to edit the hex code. And sometimes you got to repoint stuff. And it's just, it's different from coding a game. Like if I was coding a game, I could add a code in between somewhere and it wouldn't be a big deal. Whereas with ROM hacking, if you need to add something in between, it moves everything else down. But long story short, I've been taking a break because I've been having trouble being creative. What I did up until the time that I got burnt out was I was doing all the monotonous stuff that didn't require any sort of creativity. If you look at a lot of stuff that you add to a ROM hack, you're looking at like adding extra Pokemon, adding extra moves, stuff like that. So I made sure to add a lot of stuff like that while I was feeling burnt out, because at least at that point, you can't add a Pokemon uncreatively. You're just adding the image, adding the moves, adding this and that. Like that kind of stuff is more. I don't have to be feeling creative to deal with stuff like that. Whereas building maps and building, like building up the story for this phase and character placements and stuff like that, like you need to have a little more, you have to be a little more creative. And if I'm not feeling creative, I have a lot of trouble doing stuff like that. So what I decided was, I was like, okay, I'll take some time off until I get those creative juices flowing again, and then I'll get into it. So it's been a couple months since I've worked on Phase 3. Now, before I left, I did manage to do a lot of stuff. I think I added somewhere around 50 to 60 more Pokemon. I don't remember if I did this for Phase 2 or if this is a Phase 3 thing, but I've added class-based trainer music for the Joshinist. So if you're fighting a Joshinist, it plays different music from where you're fighting a like a regular person. Same, the admins have their own music too. I've also worked on I've built a desert area. For those of you who haven't seen the Durhan Desert little teaser video I've done, that desert's probably, I'd say roughly 3 to 4 times larger than the Hoenn Desert from Emerald and Ruby and Sapphire, because it takes up 3 whole maps. Technically it counts as 3 separate areas, so there's going to be different sections that have different wild Pokemon. And of course, all the Pokemon I added are going to relate to the new area. I've also built the map for a 3-layer cave that's going to lead to the next town. I've also built the map for one of the a small town that doesn't have a gym. It's just a small town that's going to have something to do with the story. I have a little list of things that I've added just to give you guys a sort of idea, and then I'm going to go through that, some of the stuff I plan to add, as well as like criticisms of the game. I figured while I'm here, I might as well just address everything and let you guys know that I am starting to feel that sort of creative flow coming back. So I'm not going to be able to work on the game as much as I used to, so it is still going to take longer just because I had a baby. Well, I mean, I didn't have a baby. My wife had a baby. You guys know what I mean. Like, we have a kid now, so I got to take care of her as well as sort of juggle this. So I'm sort of going to do what I have to do with that, but I'm obviously going to also, like, on my free time, work on the ROM because there's so much stuff I want to add for phase 3. Like, phase 3 is probably going to be the biggest phase in terms of just the sheer amount of stuff I'm adding. Like, I've added another RPG kind of element, somewhat like pickpocketing, and I also want to revise the pickpocketing system because originally I was going to have levels. Like, if you're level 1, you can pickpocket like bug catchers and youngsters, then all the way up to level 4 where you can pickpocket more important trainers. But I might just do it so that it's just a flat thing where you can just pickpocket whoever you need to pickpocket. And as you get further into the game, you just find characters that can be pickpocketed that tend to be drop better items and whatnot. I just feel like it's a little too convoluted for a Pokemon game. But I do have another system. I don't really want to spoil it just yet. That I've added that does have more layers to it. And there's like new items and stuff that are going to come out of that. I've also added, if you guys seen, I don't remember if I uploaded a video on it or not off the top of my head, but I added new ability. Yes, I did upload a video to it. So there's a few new abilities, like I've added Greninja's Protein. I've added, I've updated Rough Skin. I've added Defiant, like abilities like that. So there's new abilities that are from Gen's non-native to the Gen 3 games. I already said class-based things. So I basically added half of the map so far. I've added extra Pokemon. I'm adding other systems, and it's gonna be a while because I might even want to do some sort of like battle facility type thing. I'm not 100% sure how I'm gonna go about this, but phase 3, like, there's a lot of stuff I want to add. I'm just gonna list a few things that I have written down that I managed to write down while I was at work. I wanted to add, these are just some quality of life things for starters, like the option to say if you want to reuse another repel, if you happen to be using repels. I do at some point want to decapitalize all the Pokemon and items. I know that this is going to go on, I'm going to mention this in my critique section, but that's something that I've had a couple complaints about. I got a lot of story elements I still need to add. Like pretty much the whole thing, and the story is working towards something. Like, I have an entire sort of web of what's going to happen. Like, everything that's happening now is leading up to something. Like, I have a whole story in mind. I've just got to kind of flush that out. I've already mentioned mapping, side quests. So you saw in the Jaxia town, so phase 2. There was a side quest where you can go to the cemetery and catch a Drifblim, where you see all the kids, where you're looking for the missing kids. I want to add another sort of big side quest like that, and maybe something, maybe a couple smaller side quests as well. Like, I want the game to have a little more depth than just, oh, go beat the gym, go do this, go do that. Like, I want there to be things to do. And another thing that has to do with creativity is that kind of stuff. Like, to have an idea for a good quest, and to have also just NPC dialogue. Like, if you guys have noticed, in a lot of Pokemon games, the NPCs will just be like, I like Pokemon. Like, they're really boring, especially as of late. In my game, I've tried to make every NPC say something either useful or at least humorous. So you've seen you've seen some of my NPCs that made references to like Naruto, Goblin Slayer. I even had a 50 Shades of Grey reference in the library. Pokemon Go references. Like I like to have a little bit of fourth wall breaking here and there, just to. I guess it incentivizes the player to actually talk to people. And like, if you talk to people, they'll tell you about like how you can jump from Duffin's Point over to that other area, so you can get to, or sorry, not Duffin Point, Duffin Cave, or Duffin Tunnel rather, so you can get up to Duffin Point. Speaking of Duffin Point, I've also changed. This is something I've already done, but I'm going to continue doing. I've also revisited a lot of old areas from phase 1 and 2, and I've been redoing them, making them a little more unique and less bland. Like, I don't want the game to just be a lot of narrow, straight paths. Like, I've completely redone Duffin Point. It's called Duffin Square now. And I got to add some more trainers there because it's a bigger area. I've redone the Picton Boardwalk route, like parts of it. Route 2 is completely redone because I felt it was a little too boring, and just stuff like that. So there's a lot of stuff that I wanna add to phase. Not even just add to phase 2, but redo in phase 2. In phase 3, just to make it feel like a better game. So I've never been the type of person to, because I've coded some simpler games in the past. I've never been the person to sort of just do something just to do it. I don't want to make the game just to be out. If you look at a game like Pokemon Gaia, that's an amazing game, and I don't remember how many years it took the guy, but it took the guy a long time to make it, and it's because he probably took breaks when he wasn't feeling it. Stuff like that. Like, if you look at even with this whole Pokemon Sword and Shield thing, and I mean, me personally, I've noticed since X and Y, I felt as if Game Freak's experiencing burnout, and that's their job. This is just something I do for fun. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff I have planned for the next update. Even something as small as like adding more overworld Pokemon. That way the game looks more like, the cities look more alive and stuff like that. But yeah, I just wanted to get into some critiques now. So one of the critiques I've had is that it's too hard. Now, I'm working on balancing the game. If people have noticed, phase 1, the levels were a lot higher. I nerfed a lot of stuff, which ended up working to my advantage because the player characters were getting to too high levels anyway by the end of the first gym. So I did nerf a lot of stuff just to try to balance. I want to try to balance it being fun with it being challenging. I don't want a game that's so easy. Like, I don't want to sound kind of rude or anything, but if you want a really easy game, you can easily just play any of the recent Game Freak games. Like, it's very easy to play a game where you one-shot everything, and it's not, like, to me, that's not the kind of game I want to make. I want a game where you feel satisfied when you beat characters. Like, I'm not trying to make the game, and I've said this on comments on the internet, like I forget there's a website with a lot of comments about my game, and I sort of responded to some of the criticisms or critiques. But what I said was, I'm not trying to make the game like Dark Souls, in the sense that, you know, it's really hard and you gotta like memorize their moves and stuff like that. But I do want to make it like that in the sense that it's tough but rewarding and fair. So there are situations in phase 2 where I've gotten criticism saying that maybe the Milotic battle is a little intense, considering like the Nadia character's Milotic is really tough, especially for that point in the game. So I get that. So I've been working on nerfing her a little bit, but I also have to consider that there's 21 starters in this game, and the reason a lot of ROM hackers, at least I think, don't do this is because it's easier to balance your game when you're working with 3 different situations. I have to kind of balance 21 different starters. Like, someone who started with a Chimchar, for example, might have an easier time getting through the early stages of the game, fighting the admin's Absol and whatnot, because it gets access to fighting moves pretty quick. And Monferno, like when you get into Monferno, it's just a good Pokemon. Whereas someone who maybe started with Piplup might not have that easy of a time, or someone that started with Snivy. So it's hard for me to balance, but that's a good reason why I've been releasing the games a phase at a time, because I want people. You guys are basically beta testing the game for me, so that's why I'm really happy that so many people are interested in this game, because that's huge. Because the feedback I get from each phase, like especially when it's constructive, it helps me fix and tweak certain parts of the game. Another criticism I got was that the game has no switch option. It's always set to set. So what that means is there's no time in which the Pokemon says a trainer is about to send out Geodude, would you like to switch? I got that out for similar reasons as I was just stating before. I feel as if that way of playing is kind of cheating. And it's going to be even harder to balance my game around that. Now, some people might say, well, you know, you're getting rid of player choice in that sense. I don't think that adding the switch option is as big as, let's say, completely forcing an experience share like Game Freak did. I do think that not having the switch option allows players to have to sort of build their teams more appropriately, instead of just having six really like, instead of having like 6 glass cannons, for example, they have to work around, okay, I have to switch. It causes you to think a little. So that was part of the reason why I decided to get rid of that. I haven't decided if I'm going to add it back, but chances are, as of right now, probably not. Another complaint I got is that the game is too edgy. I don't really know how to respond to that. Like, I don't know what to say to, well, my game is edgy. Like, it's not my intention to make the game edgy. I wanted to make a more mature game. Like, if edgy is the fact that there's actual stakes and whatnot, like, I guess that's to me, that's a good thing. Like, it's not like people are swearing and like I haven't tried to make the game overtly edgy to the point where people are like, yeah, F you, I'm gonna kill you. Like, I've tried to have a balance. Like, I don't want the game to be like Pokemon Sun and Moon, where all the dialogue is like, yeah, you need to be friends with your Pokemon, and blah, blah, blah. Like, I want the game to have some depth to it. So, I mean, if someone could give me some examples of too edgy, that would be extremely helpful, because I don't know what to do with that. Another criticism I got was about my tile sets. Yeah, most of the tile sets are the original Fire Red tile sets, with the exception of like sprites and whatnot. Like, a lot of those I created myself, but even the NPCs, a lot of them are the originals. That's not necessarily a design choice for me. That's just, I haven't completed the game. Like, every phase that I come out with, I add a little bit. Like, phase 3 has some custom tile sets and whatnot, but tile sets are something that I want to work on towards the end of the game, because I'd rather focus on having the game itself work and having people, you know, give me their feedback than messing around with tile sets. Because if I decide to change all the tile sets now, in you know, 4 or 5 phases from now, I might be near the end of the game, and then I might decide, you know what, I want to put this tile set on. So I'm trying not to go too nuts with the tiles right now, in terms of like swapping the original ones, just because I might change my mind. Again, that's another limitation of the game being not finished. It's not necessarily like, oh, I'm not going to change the tile sets. It's more like, this game isn't finished, for now we're using these tiles. Another complaint was, well, this isn't really a complaint, but, well, I guess it is. Someone was complaining that in phase 2 it's hard to grind for the Milotic boss. One of the things is that when phase 3 pops, if you had not played before, you're gonna have the option to go do the phase 3 stuff before you even fight the second gym. So that's kind of why the gym seems broken right now. Like, it seems really tough. And maybe I should have accounted for that when I released the demo. But basically, you're not gonna have to go fight her. Like, there's not gonna be anything stopping you from going into the desert. You're gonna be able to go, you're actually gonna be allowed to fight the 3rd gym leader before the 2nd, if you so choose. And I have it set up so they're gonna scale. So if not scale necessarily to your level, but scale to your badges. So if you have only 1 badge, they'll be like a certain level, or if you have 2 badges, they'll be a certain level. Like, I've already set it up so that if you have the 3rd badge and you go to fight her, she'll be a little tougher, and if you don't, she'll be a little easier. Same with the other gym leader. Another complaint I've got is about the Pokemon selection, and that's another thing. Like, when phase 1 popped, the only extra Pokemon I had besides the original 386 that come with the game, and obviously not all of them are available, but it was just the starters, the Gen 4 starters. But then when I launched phase 2, I added about, I forget how many, 60 to 70, maybe even 80. But a lot of those, like, not all of them, but some of them are unavailable, even though they're fully ready, just only because they're evolutions. Like, I made sure to add every evolution for every, like, all those Gen 4 evolutions that came out in Diamond and Pearl, I added all of those. So when certain Pokemon become available, their evolutions are going to be available. But I've added a lot of Pokemon that I added in Phase 2. I've made them available in areas in Phase 1 where they originally weren't. The same thing's happening with Phase 3. Phase 3 is focusing on a lot of cave and kind of deserty Pokemon, just because that's sort of the environment. And some of those Pokemon are going to find their way into Duffin Tunnel. So as I add more and more Pokemon to the game, the older spawns are also going to become more diverse, just based on the fact that I've added more Pokemon. Eventually, I don't know if I'm going to be able to add every single Pokemon into the game, but eventually there's going to be tons, at least minimum, you're going to be able to catch all 386 plus everything that I add. Like, I eventually want to have it so you can pretty much get every Pokemon that I've added and every Pokemon that's native to the game. And to be fair, I already have more Pokemon in my game. I think Phase 2 has more Pokemon than Sword and Shield even has. So Phase 3, I think, is going to break 500. I'd have to double check when I get back to my computer, but I'm almost positive Phase 3 is breaking 500. So we're already well out of Sword and Shield range, which is 400. But like I said, I'm not trying to like defend the criticisms, but I'm just trying to give light to certain things. Another thing I got was someone complained about there not being decapitalization, and that's just something that takes a lot of time to do. Like, there are programs that'll do it for you, but I don't really trust a lot of programs. For example, when I expanded my Pokedex and the attack dex and everything, the program that I used, it like, I didn't do it manually, and the program that I used it caused problems. Like at one point it broke my Pokedex, so I had to reload a save file. Like, I don't know why, it just completely made the Pokedex not load. So I had to like reboot one of my old backups. And then another problem that came along with it was that if you were to use, let's say, water gun, no, not water gun, because water gun would work. Okay, Aqua Jet, that's a move that I added to the game. If I were to use Aqua Jet on a Pokemon with Water Absorb, and the Pokemon would heal from it, no, not if it healed, if it had full HP. One of the two, anyway, there would be a textual glitch that would basically cause a bunch of weird, like, symbols and stuff to appear, because the game would be trying to find that attack, but it wouldn't be able to, so it would get all screwed up. And that was a problem with Pokemon who had soundproof. It was a big problem. I finally ended up being able to fix it because of someone on Poke Community that helped me out. By the way, if you guys want to find me on Poke Community, my username is Joshine. I think it's /Joshine/. I don't 100% remember, but you'll find like information about Phase 2 and stuff there. But yeah, so if I were to decapitalize everything, which I do plan on doing, I just have to be really careful when I do it. So it's not on the top list of priorities, because then I also have to decapitalize every time a name is mentioned, because in Fire Red and stuff, every time anything important is mentioned, it's full caps. Items, Pokemon, character names, and I've been following that kind of rule. So I'd have to undo all that, which is fine. Like, I will eventually probably do it, but it's just gonna take time. And another thing I got was cries. Not every Pokemon has its original cry right now, and some that do, I've either sped them up or shortened them a bit. The cries take up tons of bytes. Like, it's ridiculous how much a Pokemon's cry takes up. There's a good reason why I haven't imported every single cry, and if I do, I'm going to make sure to do that at the end, because there's a good chance it's going to take up so much space that I have to use a ROM expander, and a lot of programs don't work with expanded ROMs. So right now, just some of the Pokemon are just sharing cries with other Pokemon. So, like, I mean, that shouldn't be the biggest of, like, I wouldn't think, at least to me, it's not a big deal for now, at least while the game's not finished. I tried to give Pokemon cries that at least are different enough from, like they're using cries from other Pokemon, but I at least tried to do it in such a way that the cry kind of sounds decent for that Pokemon. Like, I think I gave Clauncher Magikarp's cry. Like, they're kind of related. So I try to do stuff like that. But yeah, those are most of the criticisms and just sort of what's going on. I'm gonna start working on the game again, and I'm sorry that I just kind of disappeared. I was just so burnt out, and then the baby came, and then I just had all this stuff going on. So, yeah, sorry if this video is boring. It's probably gameplay playing right now for you guys, most likely Sekiro or something, so you guys at least have something to look at. But yeah, that's the situation, and I just wanted to thank other YouTubers like Proxy and Noob555 and those kind of guys that have been sort of playing my game and like showcasing it and getting it out to their audiences and whatnot. Like that's great. It helps. It helps me out in the sense that I can get more feedback that way. And one thing I wanted to maybe do is have like a little thing where you can maybe I can like put some of my fans into the games. You wouldn't have your own custom trainer sprites and all that stuff, but I could do it where like there could be like Ace Trainer, I don't know, Proxy would like to battle, and you could like comment and pick your favorite sort of Pokemon like in the comments or something, and then I could like add them to the game. Obviously I'd have to think about balancing, like if you I can't give you an Arceus, but if you say your favorite Pokemon's Charizard, but I'm in phase 3, maybe Charizard's not good enough, I'll give you like a Charmeleon or something. Like just stuff like that. Like I want to get you guys engaged in the game as well. But anyways, thanks for listening to me rant and giving me something to do while I drive home. Make sure to have a good day, like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter at GymLeaderEd. And until next time, take it easy. Bye.